intentionally. So do you think that he intends to end the war in 6 weeks, or he may be involved in ground operations to occupy Kharj Island and the coast of Iran from Hormuz Strait to different coasts of Iran? Your comment, please,
Look,
on this.
everything is possible right now. The president is in full negotiation mode. He is trying to find the right interlocutor, the right partner inside Iran. It's not clear whether he actually is talking to Kalibaf. Maybe he is. Whoever he was talking to released those 20 ships full of oil. So that is a good sign. It means that we have reached somebody inside the regime who has some kind of power. But so far, in the public statements, I have not seen any willingness on the part of the Iranians to seriously negotiate. And the U.S. demands, and by the way, it's not just the U.S. demands, it's also the demands of Israel, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and all of the Gulf allies, that the regime stop attacking its neighbors, stop threatening the region, that it open the Strait of Hormuz, that it end its ballistic missile program, that it end its nuclear weapons program. These are the basic demands. And so far, the Iranian regime, or whoever is speaking in its name, does not seem willing to make any concessions whatsoever.
Mr. Timmerman, there are accusations that Trump was engaged in this war by a request from Israel, and Netanyahu said there is no time frame for this war. The Americans say there is a 6 week frame. So what are the objectives of the Israelis and the objectives of the Americans of this war and the time frame?
Well, this is very clearly a joint operation. This was not an Israeli operation. It was not just a U.S. operation. We know that on the day of the decapitation strike that killed Ayatollah Khamenei, that was on February 28th. As soon as that took place, and it was Israel that conducted that strike, there were hundreds of U.S. and Israeli aircraft on their way to bomb military targets inside Iran. That is not a spontaneous operation. That is something that requires a great deal of military planning and coordination. So it's simply not true to say that Israel dragged the U.S. into this. This was a joint operation. That said, the Israelis do have some different endpoints from the United States, different goals. The Israelis have been pretty clear. They want to take out as many strategic political targets as they can. They want to create a situation where the Iranian people can rise up and take control of their government without fear of being massacred by the Revolutionary Guard and the Basij. So there are different objectives, but I would say they are certainly complementary.
Once again, Mr. Timmerman, Netanyahu says there is no time frame for Israel for this war. The Americans say there is 6 weeks time frame for this war. Is there a rift between the two sides?
No, there's no rift. I think, again, it's different public communications. I can very well see a situation where the U.S. would say that we have a deal with some Iranian counterpart, whoever that might be, to stop major military operations. And then I could see the Iranian people rising up in the streets. And it's very easy to conceive of Israel and the United States, or Israel alone, providing some form of overwatch over the Iranian people as they rise up. In other words, air cover as they liberate parts of their country to keep them from being massacred by the regime. This would not be a resumption of major military operations, but it would be a way of safeguarding the people of Iran as they try to take control of their country.
Today, there are economic effects in the United States. The Americans rely on the oil coming from Strait of Hormuz. Yesterday, during this week, there were millions of people demonstrating in the streets. There were top officials speaking about this war not achieving any of its major wars. It is an absurd war, just serving the objectives of Israel and affecting the Americans severely. And yesterday, the Egyptian president called for the American president to stop this war. Does this have any effect on Donald Trump? And if yes, how?
It has absolutely zero effect on Donald Trump. What I think you're referring to are these so-called No Kings protests over the weekend. They were sponsored by an American Chinese billionaire, Mr. Singh, and other left-wing groups, George Soros and others. They were flying Iranian regime flags in American cities. What you did not see, what the network television in the United States did not show you, were the 350,000 Iranian Americans who demonstrated in support of the war, in support of Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. at the same time. 350,000 Iranian Americans. So I think, the media would like to play up opposition to the war in the United States, and they forget to look at all of these Iranian Americans who are probably, several million in America who are wildly favorable to this war and are looking to Donald Trump to help them to liberate their country.
The United States didn't achieve any of its major objectives in Iran, so it seemed as a trap for the Americans, and there may be an etc. trap to occupy some Iranian islands in the Gulf, but there may be a severe opposition in the Congress by the Democrats. So do you think Donald Trump may be caught in this trap of occupying the islands? He claimed that he is not interested in waging new wars, and now he's waging a fierce war against Iran. Your
Right.
comment,
I
please.
don't think this is a trap. I think the president and the Central Command commander and also the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Kane, Secretary Hegseth, Department of War, I think they have all foreseen the possibility of taking Karg Island or the small islands, Abu Musa, Little Tomb, and Big Tomb in the Strait of Hormuz. I think this was part of the plan in the beginning if it was necessary. Look, the United States today has all of the cards militarily. The Iranian regime is playing a game of tear the house down. So they are desperate. They are recruiting 12-year-old children to join the Revolutionary Guards because they're running out of troops. They have huge numbers of desertions. They're putting their command centers in schools and public buildings, in mosques. They are on their knees. The regime is on their knees. And their only military strategy right now is to destroy as much of the economic infrastructure in the United Arab Emirates, in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, in Bahrain, everywhere that they possibly can. Look, just today, the Bahrainis and the Kuwaitis, they both discovered Iranian terrorist networks in their country ready to strike. So that's what the Iranian regime is seeking to do. They're seeking to tear the house down, to blow the house down, to destroy as much as they can. The U.S. until now has refrained from hitting economic targets in Iran, but the Iranian regime is certainly hitting economic targets in the Gulf.
Mr. Timmerman, all the Arab states say to the Americans, stop this war, and the Israelis try to escalate this war. But if we come back to the Congress, and Donald Trump requested funding, $200 billion. And the Congress refused. And if 60 days passed, he will declare the state of war, and the Congress will refuse. So, is it the situation that Donald Trump may not be able to reach this situation, and he was not able to achieve any of his goals?
This is not what I've been hearing from the leaders in the Arab Gulf countries. The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia spoke to his people a couple of days ago and urged President Trump to continue the war until the regime was over. Your own Minister of State, Reem al-Hashimi, was on U.S. television a few nights ago also urging the United States to see this war through and to see it through with Israel. The Democrats, of course, have taken the side of the Islamic regime in Tehran. It's incomprehensible.
This is incorrect. This is incorrect. There is no statement. These may be leaks from Axios. The Gulf states called for de-escalation and ending this war. The Arab states condemn the Iranian strikes, but at the same time, they need to stop this war on Iran. This is the official situation of the Arab and Gulf states. Not the leaks from Axios and etc.
Well, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia was speaking to an Arabic language television network in Arabic, and this is what he said. And your Minister of State was speaking to Fox News. Now, perhaps they are saying different things inside their own countries. But regardless of that, the president said from the beginning, 4 to 6 weeks. We are now in the beginning of week 5. We're in the beginning of week 5. And this is if the war went as planned, 4 to 6 weeks. It could last a few weeks longer than that. We don't know yet. It's going to depend whether the Iranian regime chooses to negotiate an end of the war or whether they choose to have the clock turned back in their country to about 1850, without electricity, without major oil installations. It will be their choice.
What about the Congress refusal of funding this war?
The Democrats in Congress have tried once already, actually I think twice already, to defund the war. They were unsuccessful. I don't think they will be successful in the future. The president has great latitude under the War Powers Act to prosecute this war for, I think, as long as he is going to need. I don't see this war lasting longer than 90 days. And at the very maximum, I think 6 to 7 weeks is probably what you're going to see.
Thank you, Say, for your comments.
Thank you so much.